Before we look at the information provided in Statement 1, let's first look at the information provided in the original question. Here we are told that the ratio of Canadians to Mexicans is equal to 3:2. Now Statement 1 tells us that the ratio of Mexicans to Americans is 7:13. We're going to find it very useful to be able to combine both of these ratios into one big ratio. To do this, we need to have the same number of Mexicans in both ratios. So let's rewrite our ratio of 3:2 as 21:14. This is an equivalent ratio to 3:2. Similarly, we can rewrite our Mexican to American ratio as 14:26. Now that we have the same number of Mexicans in both ratios, we can combine these ratios into one big ratio. Notice that the values in this ratio could represent the number of Canadians, Mexicans, and Americans in our group. Also notice that we can write an equivalent ratio of 42 to 28 to 52, and this could represent the number of Canadians, Mexicans, and Americans in our group. Also notice that we have in one of our scenarios 26 Americans, and in our other scenario we have 52 Americans. However, both of these scenarios adhere to the ratios that we've been given. So since we cannot definitively say how many Americans we have, statement number 1 must be insufficient. Statement number 2. Statement number 2 tells us that we have fewer than 30 Mexicans. This information tells us nothing about the number of Americans. So this information cannot be used to determine definitively the number of Americans we have. So statement number 2 is insufficient. Now let's combine statements 1 and 2. Also notice that we have two scenarios here that adhere to statement 1. And also notice that the two scenarios in this that are shown here both have fewer than 30 Mexicans. So we can say that the two scenarios provided both adhere to the conditions set out in statements 1 and 2. Unfortunately, both scenarios yield different numbers of Americans. So we cannot definitively say how many Americans there are in this group, even when we combine statements 1 and 2. So this is insufficient. So our answer here is E.